Okay, let's try this again. Um, Welcome and good evening, everyone. Um, got a couple of folks coming on. So, hope everyone's having a great evening tonight. Well, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and do this so I can be done. So thank you for joining me this evening. Wanted to have a serious conversation. I know I come on a lot, and I'm going on about a lot of stuff, but I wanted to have a serious conversation with parents. Now, I'm a parent, but my kids are older. And so when they were coming up in school, I didn't have the same concerns. Excuse me. I didn't have the same concerns that parents have today. There's so many things that parents have to be concerned about when they send their kids out of the house, whether it's out to play, whether it's off to school, or whether it's out to the mall, or whatever it is. Whenever they're away from you, there's always something. And they have access to so many things just by this little device here. This little device connects our children, whether they're elementary school age to college. It connects them to the world. It connects them to a world that many of us didn't have access to when we were their age. And so there are so many things that they're susceptible to, between predators, bullying, pranks, just a lot of things that we just didn't have to deal with. And so in light of recent incidents between Florida happening a couple of weeks ago, and other threats, and then recently a threat here in Charlotte with our public schools. And it just made me really think that there's just a conversation that's missing somewhere. It's missing between home and school. And so a lot of conversations have to take place first at home, and then school and social organizations, clubs, and things of that nature, they kind of just pick up the excess, the gap, but they should not have to bear the full brunt of everything that kids experience. And so tonight, I'm just wanted to give this message, have a message for parents, or just have a conversation with parents. I don't even really know what to call it, because I don't want to come off as if I am accusing parents of being neglectful or being bad parents, or, just not being in tune. There's just so much for parents to connect with nowadays, and we can't keep up with everything that our kids are doing with these devices. But however, there is some control and there are some boundaries that could be put in place. But first, I'm going to talk about just a couple of things. Excuse me. I think it's important that parents have a conversation with their kids, middle school to college, about threats. You cannot make idle threats without the severe consequences. There are severe consequences to threats that are being made, even if your child may be joking. Whether it's a threat they make to another person, or if it's a threat that they make to harm a group of people, or if it's associated with a facility. So please help your child to understand that threats are real, and there are real consequences, even if they're joking about it. So I would encourage you to look up the laws of your state and look up federal laws, because federal laws come into play when someone communicates threats. So it's important that you help them to understand the gravity of things that they say. And it's not just about, being popular and seeing how many likes you can get and how many comments, and, all these different social media outlets have ways of drawing young kids in to make them feel popular. So they are losing sight of who they are because they want to have this popularity. And society, there's an entertainment part of society that has given young people the green light that, the stuff that you do on social media could possibly make you popular. And everybody wants to try to be a social media star or an internet star. And they're taking things to levels that they don't even really understand how it's going to impact their lives forever. These young people that are making threats and saying and doing the things that they're doing, they don't realize how they're impacting their lives. The Tide Challenge, a few weeks ago, how kids are damaging their bodies, setting themselves on fire. Those things have a real impact, and there's a conversation that's missing, and it can't be up to the schools, and it can't be up to the government. We want the government to do something about guns and change gun laws, but why don't we have the conversation at home? There's a lot that happens in society that we don't like that happens. We can have the conversations with our kids at home. So the other thing, don't joke about anything that puts yourself or others in danger or harm's way. So help them to understand that when they say something, if another person feels that it is a threat to them, I don't care how minor it is, there can be a charge pressed against them. And if this person is a minor, it's the parent, it's that person's parent, the victim's parent, who has the right to decide if they want to press charges against your child. And so you may think the charges are ridiculous, but parents have to take every threat seriously, because we have no idea when that next threat is going to be the threat. So help your child to understand that they can't just say things that they want to say and they think it's in jest, or they want to get laughs, or they want to be popular, or whatever the reasons that kids do the things that they do these days. It's our job as parents to have these conversations to help them understand. Another thing, if it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. They need to talk to someone in authority. It may save lives. Sometimes kids see things on other kids' phones. They see them on their social media accounts. They see them written on notebooks. They see them written on bathroom walls. They see them written on desks. They see them written emails. I don't know. They communicate smoke signals. I'm not sure. They have found ways to get around the adults seeing what they're doing. But kids know. And these young people are in tune with their friends, and they know who the threats are, but they don't want to say anything. You need to have the appropriate conversation, the age-appropriate conversation with your child about how they navigate through something like that. I'm not going to give any advice on that, because every child is different and every situation is different. But you have the age-appropriate conversation with your child, like I said, from elementary to college. There is no grade level that's exempt from any type of a threat, especially school threats, school shootings. I think it was done for me when the Newtown shooting happened, because I just kept thinking about those little elementary school students that they just didn't have a chance. And so, we have to have these conversations with our kids. The other thing I want to say is check their phones, know their social media accounts. I'm just going to say this because as a parent, and I know the boundaries and the rules I had in my home, you need to have information to get into your kids' phones, or you need to have access to some app that can see what's going on in your child's phone. And of course, they have these little ghost accounts. So you need to get savvy on how do you discover ghost accounts. But here's what I have to say to that. If you are paying the phone bill, or you are paying the electricity that keeps that phone charged, you have the right to set the boundaries on that phone. I just can't believe that there are parents that they're scared to take the phone away from the kids, or they say, well, they need to have the phone because they need to get in touch with me. Look, My generation survived without cell phones. We carried dimes and quarters, and we made phone calls. Now, I know we don't have phone booths like that anymore, but for the most part, they don't need to have a phone. And if they can't be trusted with the phone, then they need to be at home where they won't really need a phone. So, but that's, I'm not trying to tell you how to do your household. I'm just saying there are ways that, parents can be more engaged in what's going on. So there are a couple of places you can Google parent monitoring apps. I think Verizon has something, and you may check with iPhone. They may have some, Apple. Norton Family Premier has something called Phone Sheriff. You may want to look into that. But you are responsible for knowing what's going on with your child, especially if they live in your home. The other thing, get to know their friends and who they're spending time with. I think, and I'm just going to say for my generation, I think that we were less inclined to do a lot of foolishness because you knew your friends' parents, the parents knew you, or they knew your parents, and there was this kind of connection. So it wasn't this whole secret society of friends where parents couldn't kind of give wisdom and say, hey, that person's a bad egg, or you might need to stay away, you might need to be cautious, and then build a relationship where your child can come and have a conversation with you about something that they notice about their friends. We all want to buy into the idea that we have really great kids, and for the most part, many people have really great kids, but really good kids know how to trick really good parents and make them think that they're a certain way so that they can get away with more and get more responsibility. So it's up to us as parents and adults to be more in tune with what's going on with kids. So you need to get to know their friends. And I think I mentioned this earlier, set boundaries and rules for proper phone use. You need to establish rules for phone use. And if they violate that, then the phone needs to be taken away, and you need to have whatever privileges you want to have removed. Hey, you pay the bill and provide the electricity. So I don't see any reason why you can't take the phone. And even if you have a teenager who works and they pay their bill, unless they're plugging their phone up to the tree in the backyard, you're providing the electricity that provides that phone. So you still have rights to say. And, I'm going to say this too. We always talk about privacy. We want to give kids privacy, this, that, and the other. I get that. But privacy has its limits and it has its boundaries, which means that I may knock on your door as a courtesy, but I don't need for you to wait to tell me to come in. I respect your privacy, that when you're not home, that I just don't arbitrarily go through your things. But if I feel that there is an issue or something going on that I need to find out, as a parent, I have the right to check your room and inspect your room. And I think that we've given away in this modern age so many parental rights and given the kids more rights. And that's why things are just in hell in a handbasket. So, we're saying collectively, I don't know what's going on with these kids these days. Well, actually, we do. We just don't want to take responsibility for not being connected. We're so disconnected and doing our own things that, people just aren't paying attention. And some of it is legitimate. You have some parents who work 2 and maybe 3 jobs, and they're just not home, and they just can't get connected there because they're emotionally distressed. But I think that this is where we need to get back to that collective village. You need to have that village so that when you're not there, someone else is going to hold your child accountable. And know the password to their device. Like I said, if you pay for the phone, you should know everything about the phone. You should almost know how many cells are left on the battery at the end of the day. That's how much you should be connected, because things are happening in these little devices that parents don't know about. And there's a whole underworld of information. There are predators that are using cute little games to, on the surface, to the parent, it looks like it's a family-friendly game, but it is coercing your child into doing something that they shouldn't do. So there should be more conversation about this device. We give the world to our kids in their hands with this little thing here, And we make them go to driving school for so many hours. Then they have to go and take the driver's test, and then they have to go get their driver's license before we put them behind the wheel of a car. And if they go to get their permit, then they have to drive a certain amount of hours with an adult before they're allowed to drive alone. But yet we put this device in their hands, and it opens them up to the entire globe, and we don't think to have a conversation about it. And there are things that their friends are saying to them through text messages and these chat things that some parents need to be aware of, because there are some things that we can thwart by just being engaged with our children. And please do not misunderstand me. I am not making the assumption that you as a parent don't care, or you as a parent aren't engaged. I'm having a conversation with you that hopefully something I say will ignite or awaken something in you to say, hey, you know what? I didn't think about that. Or, hey, I need to take this a little bit more serious. I need to know what's going on. Because at the end of the day, God forbid, if your child happens to be the one making the threat, or happens to be the child on the other end of the threat, you know, when they start asking questions, they're going to start with the parent. They're starting with who they lived with. And they're going to ask you a lot of the things that I've said on this list, and I'll recap it. I said that threats have real consequences, even if it's meant as a joke. They will ask, you know, have you ever heard them say anything, you know, out of the ordinary? Are they watching certain programs? Are they playing video games? They're expecting you to know this. Don't joke about anything that put others in danger or harm's way. How do they treat their siblings? How do they treat the animals in the home or animals in the community? You know, what are they saying to other family members or younger family members? Are they angry? If it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. They need to talk to someone in authority. They may save a life. And then if your child happens to be a friend of someone who made the threat or was in danger, they're going to ask your child, well, had you ever seen them do anything? Had you ever seen a text message, or are you social media friends with them? What kind of things were they talking about? What kind of pictures were they posting? The other thing, check their phones, know their social media accounts. Something happens, authorities are going to say, well, do you know what social media accounts they're connected to? Have you ever seen them? Do you know what kind of things they're talking about? Do you know who they're connected to on social media? Get to know their friends. If something happens, God forbid, you know, if a child is abducted, you know, the first thing they want to know is, well, who do they hang out with? And most parents don't even know who their kids' friends are. They don't know where they live. They don't even know their kids' friends' parents' name. So there's no information. And one of the things I've tried to instill in my children is, if you give me all the information that you can right now, if something were to happen to you, you give me a great head start. Parents don't have a great head start right now, because when something happens, you know, the first thing we're doing, you know, we do these Amber Alerts, and, you know, we're sending out these things and we're doing on the news. But the question starts with the groundwork. The groundwork starts with asking the questions. Then the other thing, set boundaries or rules for proper phone use. They're going to ask, well, did you allow them to be on the phone at all kinds of hours? Was there a lock on the phone? Did you have access to the phone? How did you monitor what they were doing, their texting, and so on and so forth? And know the password. So what I'm saying to you is, I'm not making any judgment on anyone. I'm just saying that these are real questions that are being asked. And the person that communicated the most recent threat to our schools here in our city, and I was impacted by one of those schools, that person is facing a felony, and then something about felony of reporting a false report and a threat on educational property. Felony is a very big word. And to look into the eyes of a parent they're the parent of a child that did something like that, that is disheartening. And I wanted to do this Facebook Live so that this video, you know, can go out to parents, so people can watch and just say, you know what, hey, I need to ask some different questions. I need to do some different things, because by me stepping up and being more responsible, hey, ladies, thank you so much. By me being more responsible, I may save someone's life. That's what it's all about. I don't like seeing parents on television crying because they've had to bury their child. their elementary school baby, their middle school baby, their high school baby, their college baby who hadn't even really started life. Like, we just can't just give these devices and say, hey, this is how you can get in touch with me. They connect to the world. They can connect to someone in New Zealand, Sri Lanka, the Netherlands, Africa. There are people out there that are using these devices to connect to our innocent children, to get them to do things that they don't need to do. And all of these hate groups, we've got to pay attention. So, hopefully I hope that you found this to be some very good information. And I just want to have the conversation so that parents can just say, ooh, that's an aha moment. I'm not here to teach you to be a parent. I'm not here to judge you as a parent. I'm not here to even just kind of give you step-by-step advice on how you need to parent. I'm just telling you just some of the things that I see and experience, and the missed moments. And the news camera and the microphone and CNN and everybody else surrounded around the building is too late. It's too late for somebody. And so we need to do something about it right now. So I hope that you found this information valuable. Feel free to share this video with everyone that you know. Share it on your timelines, because somebody needs to hear it. There's a parent out there that, hey, they probably have no clue what to do. No clue. And here's the real of it. If it's a grandparent that's raising the child, they're absolutely lost. They're absolutely lost. And not because they're not smart, but they're just at an age where they just cannot keep up with the fast moving pace of the internet and social media. So, I encourage you to know who your kids are chatting with and what they're doing, and have them to just randomly bring the phone here. Let me scroll through your phone so I can see what people are saying. If they know that you're doing that, and they know that they have ghost accounts, it'll help them to line up. So, I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing. Because I just think that this is a message that needs to go viral. Our parents shouldn't have to be afraid to send their kids to school. That's such an atrocity. I never imagined being afraid going to school. Well, I was, because it was a bully, but that's just what it was. But never afraid because you thought somebody was going to come and shoot up a school, or going to a mall and afraid you were going to be shot up. We need to teach our kids the proper way, and have an exit plan in mind. When you go into a facility, tell them that they need to look at their surroundings. So should something happen, they know exactly where they're going to go. We don't live in a bubble. There are real things happening, and there are really bad things happening, and there are real permanent things that are happening. And it just saddens me that a young person is attached to a felony threat. And so I just wanted to take some time to come on and have a message to parents to talk to their kids. So I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you sharing because it is important. And so I'll come back another time with a rant or something silly or something funny, or even something on the coaching spectrum, which is what I do for life coaching. But today I thought it was important to have a conversation with parents. So thank you all so much for watching. Thank you so much for sharing, and feel free to share your comments. I really appreciate it. Suzanne Stroud Speaks. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.